watching CramerSez.
Woo! It is Wednesday, hump day. Welcome, everybody, to the middle of the week. My name is Kramer. This is the CramerSez Project. And tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. We haven't done this before. We're going to do the Gateway Pundit Top 5. Just going to go to some of the stories there that I found interesting today and go over that. But before we get to that, let's talk about what the CramerSez Project is, what we're doing, and how you can help. For those of you who have already signed up for the emails and so on, they are coming. We have not sent anything out yet. We have been overwhelmed with response, and we're super excited that it's taking this long to actually get through some of these lists and start getting stuff together. We will be sending out here in the next couple of weeks, hopefully before the holidays, but most likely, knowing how schedules are and so on, it will most likely be after the holidays before we can have a huge Zoom meetup. But what we want to do is get the people that are most qualified up front, I guess is the best way to put it, is to get them started so that we can start on this project in the new year. That's the goal. So we're starting a little slow, but once we get going, I hope it picks up like a snowball. With that being said, let's go to story number one. You know, it's funny, I think that MSNBC, man, they just can't get it straight. MSNBC hires black actors to feature alongside its white anchors in racial justice themed ad promoting MS Now, their name change. They just rebranded, folks, and they had to do that, by the way, because no one trusts them. And what did they do? They're doing this ad where it features black actors. Now, the reason this is important, and it's not the black actors' fault, it's the woke MSNBC trying to keep that audience because all of their people are white. Yeah, MSNBC, so white. Remember that at the Oscars a few years ago? Well, that's what MSNBC is trying to cover up. They are so white, they don't have hardly any black, people of color, indigenous, diversity. They lack diversity. Let me put it that way. So a slick new civil rights themed video promoting MSNBC's forced name change, MS Now, features paid black actors playing ordinary Americans, intercut with pensive shots of MSNBC's white primetime stars. They didn't put any black stars up there. They don't have any. They scream and yell at you all day long about diversity, 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 diversity. And then when you shine the light back at them, they have to go hire diversity. They don't have the diversity that they're screaming and yelling at you about. Folks, it's important to realize the people that are screaming and yelling at you, they're always projecting. They're always telling you. Bullies, that's what they're famous for. They're screaming and yelling at you, telling you, complaining about you, what you're doing when they're doing the exact same thing. The promotional spot, narrated by Rachel Maddow, reading the Constitution, appears to be a ham-handed effort by MSNBC's new parent company, Versant, to cater to MSNBC's large black audience, the largest in cable news. You would think, knowing that they've got the largest black audience, you think that they would cater to them instead of pander to them. There's a big difference. Hey, we want to speak to this audience. We should have somebody who knows how to speak to that audience because they're part of that audience. What do you say we hire somebody who's part of that audience and put him in prime time? What do you say? Now, here's the thing. Do you think that Rachel Maddow is going to give up her primetime gig for diversity? You think she's going to step out of the way? What about Ollie or one of the others? You think they're going to move? Do you think that Stuart Anderson is going to give up his gig? Old Blue Eyes there is going to let somebody with a little darker skin pigmentation come in and take over his shift? Do you think that they're going to start practicing what they preach? The answer, of course, is no. Remember last fall when the Kamala Harris campaign did an ad featuring all men, but all the men in the ad turned out to be actors? This is the exact same thing. It's not real Americans. Now, when I say that, these actors, of course, they're real Americans. But they're acting as real Americans. They're not real Americans in there doing their thing, answering honestly. They're reading a script. Now, I've produced a lot of TV commercials for politicians. Yes, we use scripts. But not for the people that are talking on screen. No, typically, It's their words. We're trying to get what they have to say, not what some marketing guy like myself has to say. If you don't remember that ad, by the way, let's take a look at this video, by the way, and it'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. Here we go.
We the people of the United States, in order to form a more
I know a place.
And all powered by Intuitive for hospitals, care teams, patients, and surgeons in training like me.
of the United States. States.
I'm sorry, everybody, but we are no longer seeing people for this role.
Y'all listen to the man?
We the free. We the proud. We the brave. We the people.
Now, they want to brag. They want to brag that they are part of We the People, but they don't have those people on staff. They had to hire those people. Now, is this a big deal? No. First of all, let me make it clear. I have no issue with actors being used in TV ads. I have no issue whatsoever. What I have a problem with is that they're promoting something that isn't real. It doesn't exist. The same thing that Kamala was trying to promote back during the election. It didn't work back then either.
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man.
And I'm man enough.
I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500 and braid the out of my daughter's hair.
Here we
You think
go.
I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that. It's not carburetors you eat, son. We can tell that it's something other than carburetors, especially how low that's hanging. This didn't work during the election. MSNBC, turning to MS Now, is trying to do the same thing. Why? Because they don't have anything, folks. They have no programming. They have no ratings. They have nothing to offer. And so all they can do is pander, pander, pander. They've been telling you for the last how many weeks that kids are going to die if the Republicans don't get off their ass and open the government back up. And the moment that the Republicans come together with 8 Democrats that have common sense that will at least, let's get it open. Let's get it open. Then we can start the debate. What did they start screaming? They start screaming, oh, what'd you guys do? You caved. How dare you, you weak Democrats? Suddenly, they weren't worried about a little Johnny starving in the streets, were they? They weren't. Because this is what really is important to them. Listen what this commercial is about. I think it's important. What most people don't realize, they thought this commercial was funny, but what it was an absence. I say a lot of times that if you want to find out what's really important, listen for what's not being said. Listen to this. Listen to this ad.
Afraid of bears?
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
I'm not afraid of
not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for
Let
it.
them.
They want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of
Sure.
family.
They want to be childless cat ladies?
Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants...
What wasn't that ad about? That ad wasn't about the most important thing, and the MSN Now, or whatever they're doing now, isn't about the most important things. They're pandering to the things that have lost them everything, and not looking at the things that they should, which is the economy, jobs. What are these vaccines doing? What are the pharmaceutical companies doing? What's big business doing? What's big tech doing? But they can't. They can't do that anymore for one simple reason. They're owned by these industries. They can't. They cannot move on. Moving on to issue number 2 for the evening. You can't make this shit up. Comey's attorneys reportedly provided doctor transcripts in his perjury trial. They produced documents for the court This coming from Paul Sperry. He shared some observations on the documents that Comey provided to the courts in his perjury case. One observation is shocking. As part of its perjury defense, James Comey's legal team, now this is from Paul Sperry on X, James Comey's legal team altered 2 words in a transcript of his 2020 Senate testimony to make it seem as if Senator Ted Cruz asked Comey a key question he didn't actually ask him during the hearing. This is what they do. I keep telling you, this is what they do. They do it so much, they do it so often, and what they do is they've got this, we'll ask for forgiveness. Don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. That's the mentality of these people. It's the mentality of the bully. You push, 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 push. You and I both know that John's not going to like if we do what we're about to do. But if we go ask him, we're definitely going to know. We're definitely going to know. That's the way that the government works. Comey is so used to making it up and lying on the fly and dying with the lie that he doesn't know anything different. These are the people that were in charge of our government. This man right here, what did he say to you? He told you that there was a problem with Donald Trump, that he was owned, that he was a dishonest man, and then we find out that this is the way that he behaves. Folks, these men and women that have done what they've done have to be held accountable. We do not have a country. Just like you don't have a nation, you're not sovereign if you don't have borders, if your laws aren't upheld, if people aren't held accountable, you don't have a nation either. Going on to number 3, this is the Gateway Pundit's top 5. Bombshell, Christina Bobb exposes names of Democrat dirtbags behind alleged $200,000 payments for prosecution of GOP electors. Arizona still recovering from a bloody election war in 2020 over the hotly contested presidential race between Trump and Joe Biden and the race between Kari Lake and Democrat then acting Secretary of State Katie Hobbs for governor, when Arizonans were faced with yet another highly implausible result in the 2022 election between Democrat Chris Mays and the very popular Republican candidate Abraham I knew I was going to do that. Hamada. After almost 2 months and a recount, the race for Arizona Attorney General was called for Democrat Chris Mays by a mere 280 votes. Weird, huh? Yesterday, Christina Bobb filed a bombshell whistleblower complaint that likely will blow up the lawfare cases in Arizona and possibly every other state where GOP electors and lawyers were falsely accused and or charged by Democrat thugs with crimes they never committed. That's what happened in the last couple of years, folks. They came after people who didn't do anything. They were just doing their job. And these people went after law-abiding citizens for political reasons, for political power, for political gain, and to punish people so they would never do it again. Don't you threaten me. Don't you use that technique on me. We'll put you in jail. That's why Tina Peters is in jail right now. Not because of what she did, but who she dared to out and uncover. Now, a big part of the case that these prosecutors have against these electors is they're calling it fraud. Democrat AG cases have revolved around the accusation that these electors were fake, that they didn't really believe that they were in the right, and they were knowingly breaking the law. Now think about that. That's what they were pushing in the public. They were saying that these people knew that Donald Trump was lying, that they were just going along with it to get political power, and they knowingly did it. Now, here's what's interesting coming from the Michigan AG Dana Nessel, as she blows that theory apart. Listen closely to what she says. By the way, one of the things that I do on a daily basis is I listen to people. I know I do a lot of talking. That's all you ever see me doing. But 90% of my day is listening to other people. What they say, how they talk, what words they use, what words they don't use, how they dance around the issue, and sometimes how they say the quiet part out loud.
Do you have an update on the status of the charges against the 16 fake electors in Michigan? What about their allies in the legislature who tried to help them into the Capitol?
Yeah, so in terms of the false slate, their preliminary examinations are scheduled now. They've been sort of cut in half. 16 defendants is a lot of people to have a hearing at once. So those cases will be heard at this point in October and in November. Let me tell you something that's really scary about these cases. People talk a lot about, oh, why don't you start flipping some of those people so that they can become witnesses?
Oh, by the way, let me jump real quick. If you're freaking out because of what the video is doing, that is the original video. That's not playback or your device. We will continue.
Defendants, the worst acting defendants. The problem is, these are people who have been brainwashed. And when I say brainwashed, how do you flip someone who concedes that they did everything that they're accused of doing, but what they say is, we believe that we were in the right. We think that Donald Trump is the real winner of the election. So when we said that we were the duly elected and qualified electors for Donald Trump, who won the presidency in the state of Michigan in 2020, they legit believe that. They genuinely believe it. So how do you, somebody can't even plead guilty if they wanted to, because they can't admit that what they did violated the law because they still think they're right. And they're not the only ones. So those cases are going to proceed forward. Eventually, those cases will be tried in Ingham County, which is very different than Antrim County. Ingham County, where Lansing was located, is a very, very Democratic-leaning county. But I worry that there will be people who just won't care that they clearly violated the law because they believe that the ends justify the means, and that, it's okay to do as long as the end game is getting this autocrat into office, who will surely.
So did you hear that? Listen to what she's saying. She's saying that he's going to be the end of democracy. And she was willing to lock up people who believed they were right. They said it was fraud. You see, that's their whole case, that they believed and that they could take over power if they got Trump in, but they knew that he really didn't win. That's their case, that they went and did all of these things for fraud. They fully believed that Trump lost, but they were going to do it anyway. That's what the left wants you to believe. That's why they say it's fraud. They say that those people that they're trying to lock up didn't believe what they said they believed. And now she's saying just the opposite. Oh no, they're brainwashed. We can't convince them otherwise. We're going to lock them up, and they're still saying that they think that the election was rigged. They still think that Trump won the election and it was rigged. They still believe that it was stolen from the American people. They still believe it. How can they believe it? They're crazy. They're brainwashed. No, the 2020 election was rigged, bitch. We saw it happen in real time. I saw it happen. I saw the 19,000 vote switch. We were watching it. A buddy of mine, Ray Romano, not talking to him right now. He's an idiot. But with that being said, he would back me up. We're watching it. And I go, did you see that? He goes, yeah, 19,000 votes. I'm good with math. When I see the numbers flipping, I'm doing it in my head. And all of a sudden, boom, wait a minute, that ain't right. Trump just lost 20,000 votes. How do you lose 20,000 and Biden gained 20,000? Yeah, we saw what we saw. That's the problem, folks, is that they want you to watch them pee on your leg as they try to convince you that it's raining outside and not say a thing. This is what the Democrats want. Going to story number 4. This is an interesting one. The J6 defendant rejects presidential pardon to expose DOJ corruption and judicial conspiracy against Trump supporters. He says, this is Daniel Michael Morrissey. He says, I do not need clemency. By accepting it, I absolve the sins of the state. Think about that. This young man is saying, no, I'm going to prove that I was innocent the entire time. Daniel Michael Morrissey, a January 6th defendant, Army veteran and MBA holder, has become one of the most defiant figures in the J6 saga, turning down a presidential pardon from President Trump, signing on the document itself, return to sender. Choosing instead to blow the lid off of what he calls a coordinated fraud upon the court involving his former defense attorney, the Department of Justice, DOJ, and even his presiding judge, U.S. District Judge Reggie B. Walton. Morrissey, a patriotic American who found himself ensnared in the Biden DOJ's I cannot read tonight. Relentless witch hunt against Trump supporters alleges that exculpatory evidence proving Capitol Police induced entry into the building was deliberately suppressed, leading to his wrongful conviction and plunging him into homelessness while he fights to care for his elderly mother. Now, he has gone in and they have set up, I believe it's here. Yes. If you're interested, you can give to this young man. There's a Give, Send, Go set up at this address right here. If you want to help him out, that's the way to do it. We are not behind the giving. I'm just telling you that that's where it's at. I'm not behind. I am behind helping out these people. I was at January 6th, and we've got to do something for these young men and women. And it's interesting, folks, that we are in the position that we can do this, and we should. We should help these young men get back on their feet. Their nation came in and robbed years from their lives. So from that standpoint, yes, we should. If you've got it, give it. If you feel it, do it. If you don't, don't. That's the way I feel about it. The biggest story that I've got going on tonight that I think is interesting is one coming out of California. Congressman Eric Swalwell, he seems to want to play loose and free with everything. He's naming his home in D.C. Let's go back to here. He's naming his home in D.C. As the. Is this the right one? That is the right one. They didn't give me the right card. Okay, we don't have this set up right. Well, anyway, we'll play it correct. Eric Swalwell is naming his D.C. home as his principal residence, and he has no California address. Eric, baby, you can't do that, buddy. You got to have a house. You got to be in that district. You got to pay taxes. You got to have a driver's license, all of that. California Representative Eric Swalwell has faced a barrage of controversy in recent years from his alleged ties to the Chinese spy Fang, Bang Bang Fang Fang, and his removal from the House Intelligence Committee over national security concerns to his infamous on-air mishap during a 2019 interview on Hardball with Chris Matthews. Now, here's what's funny, folks. I'd forgotten about this. So when this came up, the first thing that I did is I went and Googled that to find out what it was. And I thought that you'd enjoy it as well. Here we go. This is what they're talking about from Chris Matthews from 2019.
While the impeachment train rolled on, there's an even bigger scandal rocking D.C. today. And just a warning, if you have small children at home, you should probably bring them over to the TV to watch this.
A congressman says he was not responsible for a noise heard during this interview.
I've counted at least 5 people testifying this week who were on the phone listening to the president talk about this swap of dirt for U.S. military aid.
Chris, so far, the evidence is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
Yeah, that happened. That happened live. That's not put in there. That happened live. Remember that? As serious as Fartgate was back in 2019, a new revelation about Swalwell raises even more questions about his integrity and, more importantly, his eligibility to serve in Congress. Despite serving as a congressman from California's 15th district and claiming Livermore on his official House profile, Swalwell has declared his Washington, D.C. property as his principal residence. Why do all these politicians have problems with what is their main domicile, their primary residence? How do they have that problem? You know why they have that problem. Under Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, members of Congress must be inhabitants of the state they represent at the time of their election. In California, maintaining a residence means holding tangible, verifiable ties to the state, such as owning or renting a residence, registering to vote, paying state income taxes, and possessing a California driver's license. Now, these are not the biggest stories of the day. They're the top 5 for me. I think they're interesting because they're going to blow up into other things. That's what I follow. The stories that I call mustard burps, the ones that are there for a moment and gone, I don't care about those. I want the ones that have meat on them. There's something there. And there's more there than we're thinking. We don't know it all yet. Like the Hunter Biden laptop. Like Anthony Weiner's laptop. Like what's going on with the Epstein files. It's not conspiracy, folks. It's news. And that's what we're looking into. We want to know. Don't you want to know? You should want to know. This is your country. I saw a video today, and I tend to agree with it, that we may be lost. This may be it. We may not have another go-around. We may not have another 100 years left in us, 250 years left in us. We may not double up what we've already done. Hardly any nation in front of us has, or behind us has. But to be the first one, the thing that we've got to learn is what all other nations have forgotten. You see, the bigger they get, the more complex they get, the bigger the system gets, the more your freedoms suffer. It doesn't matter how many times we've done this. It's proven time and time again. This is the last chance we have. Right now, we as the American people have the ability to come together and start trusting our news. And we do that by getting it from people that we know and trust, as opposed to the mainstream media. They have an agenda, folks. I want truth. I want to know what these drugs are doing to my grandchildren. My grandson, my new grandson, is getting vaccines. I'm not crazy about it. And I wish his parents felt stronger about it. If we were able to actually investigate and trust these investigations, that's what the CramerSez Project is about. We want to start funding investigations to look into the things that are really important to the American people. Dive into the pharmaceuticals, the big business, big tech. What's our government really doing to us? That's what the CramerSez Project is all about. We're going to need your help to do it. If you'd like to help us, you can do so by finding out what we're doing and seeing if you can volunteer initially. We don't have any money. This is a grassroots movement. We'd love to have you on board if you've got the capabilities. You can learn more about what we're doing over at CramerSezProject.com.
Morning, New York City. Remember how I told you a few months ago to stop sending us money? You can start again. Because we have an exciting new program we're starting in partnership with my dear friend, Assemblyman Lyle Culpepper.
Yes, we promised you lots of free stuff, but we need money to pay for that free stuff. And that's why we're launching Covered Income New York City.
Why should you have to earn your own income if the city can just cover it for you?
If you voted for us, you will get covered income.
Is this a Ponzi scheme? Yeah, kind of.
But isn't that just what socialism is?
I got covered income, and so can you.
Visit coverincome.com for more information and get covered income today.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
CramerSez returns after this message from our partners.
Last week in our We Told You So series, we warned GM investors that CEO Mary Barra was bad for business. We were right. Barra's love affair with EVs just cost stockholders $1.6 billion as GM takes a massive loss after Biden subsidies come to an end. Then, Paul Chesser reported Bank of America had no problem debanking conservatives.
This is an issue that NLPC's been investigating since the story broke.
But refused to expose Jeffrey Epstein's financial activities.
During the January 6th uprising, Bank of America scrubbed through its data and turned over credit card information without being asked, without being subpoenaed, without having a warrant given to them by federal law enforcement. At the same time, they were doing business with Jeffrey Epstein without question. And then after Epstein died, they suddenly realized, we need to report this activity. And they filed 2 suspicious activity reports, as they should have done when Epstein was still alive and still banking, but they didn't do so. They were basically covering up the business that Epstein was conducting.
But wait, there's more. NLPC Chairman Peter Flaherty is calling for the indictment of John Brennan, the ex-CIA director who pushed the Russia collusion hoax, relied on the discredited Steele dossier, and lied to Congress.
According to the House Judiciary Committee, John Brennan committed crimes. We believe there's even more to the story, and we're going to stay on top of it.
That was last week. What's NLPC working on next? Find out by subscribing to the NLPC on this platform or by visiting us at nlpc.org.
To learn more about the CramerSez Project, our mission, and how you can become a part of it,
please please visit thecramersezproject.com.
You're watching Kramer Says.
Welcome back. My name is Kramer. This is the Kramer Says Project. And if you haven't been over to the CramerSezProject.com to check it out, to see what we're doing, what this is all about, and how we're building America's first grassroots citizen-run news service, you got to do that right now over at the CramerSezProject.com. Kramer Says, CramerSez Project.com. My next guest, this is an interesting one, folks. He got rated back in 2016 by MIT as the 107th most influential voice in the 2016 presidential elections. Now, this is before the elections were over. So that meant that he got a target on his back. They labeled him as a fascist, a Nazi, a white supremacist, a Trump fanboy, and my favorite is troll. That the number one name used about my next guest. What's interesting is that they didn't say that he had cooties, so we're good there. You knew him online as Ricky Vaughn on Twitter. His real name is Douglas Mackey. And for those of you who don't know who the hell I'm talking about, here's Tucker Carlson from January of 2021. That date, very important. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. He'll explain exactly who Douglas Mackey is.
This is the part of the revolution where they start throwing their political opponents in jail. Wow, that was fast. It was just a week ago they were telling us about unity. Remember that? What we didn't know at the time is they meant that everyone with power should unite against the rest of the country. Unity meant oligarchy. Oh. Doug Mackey learned that the hard way this morning. Mackey is a 31-year-old conservative journalist from Florida. At 7 a.m., FBI agents showed up at Mackey's house. They threw him in handcuffs and they dragged him to a cell. He now faces 10 years in prison. His crime? He made fun of powerful Democrats on social media. As the federal criminal complaint puts it, quote, Mackey made coordinated use of social media to spread disinformation relevant to the impending 2016 presidential election. This disinformation, the Biden administration solemnly explained, quote, often took the form of memes. Yes, memes. Online mockery. Mockery online is now illegal when it's aimed at the wrong people. Doug Mackey hurt their feelings, so they put him in jail. According to Joe Biden's Justice Department, Doug Mackey violated 18 U.S. Code Section 241. He did this by tricking people, like the dastardly trickster that he is, into not voting in the presidential election. What's interesting is that prosecutors showed no evidence whatsoever that Doug Mackey actually tricked anyone into anything, voting or not a single person. But that doesn't matter, shrieks CNN. Doug Mackey is a bad person with bad views. And by the way, we have no idea what Doug Mackey's views are. We don't care. What CNN is telling us is that those views are a crime. He's a criminal. Lock him up. Give him a longer sentence than we give to rapists, which they're trying to do. As of tonight, that is the official position of the Lynch Mob channel. But hold on a minute, as a legal matter. Have you ever read 18 U.S. Code Section 241? Probably not, but you should. Look it up. When you read it, you will learn that Joe Biden's Justice Department is lying in a very obvious way, and that should make you very nervous. It turns out that federal law does not ban memes, or for that matter, misinformation, whatever that is. The law that Biden's prosecutors are citing instead prohibits, quote, conspiring to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate anyone from exercising the right to vote. According to the law, that would include kidnapping voters, invading their homes, sexually abusing them. Doug Mackey didn't do any of that, not even close to any of that. Doug Mackey made memes. Therefore, he's a domestic terrorist. Speech is violence, dissent is a felony.
So before we get to Doug, I want to set up what's important here for you to understand is that Douglas Mackey was arrested on January 27th, 2021. This is 7 days after the Biden DOJ took over. Biden's just been inaugurated, and one of the first actions they take is against Doug Mackey. Doug, welcome to the show. How does that feel? That morning had to be, well, very exciting. Tell us about it.
It was a shock. It was a very exciting morning. So 7 a.m., right around 7 a.m., we got the knock on the door. I was still groggy and I was still in bed. And so we ran to the door because I actually had two roommates at the time, living sort of a bachelor life. So we opened the door, and there's 4 FBI agents, multiple local police officers, and they say, "Are you Douglas Mackey?" I said, "Yes, we have a warrant for your arrest." And the first words out of my mouth were, "For what?" They cuffed me. They took me inside and allowed me to use the bathroom and to change my clothes, to put some clothes on. And then I was hauled over to West Palm Beach to the federal courthouse. And so in the cruiser, and I had no idea what I was being charged for. They didn't tell me. They didn't say why I was being charged. They, of course, tried to interview me. I said, no, that's okay.
Good choice. Good choice.
You can talk to my lawyer. Exactly. So I was dragged to the courthouse, and from there, the whole Kafka saga began. I don't know how far deep you want me to go into it.
Well, I think that what's important for people to understand is that, Doug, what you did is nothing different, more different than what I did from 2020 on, right, on social media. It's what a lot of us were doing, is that we were pointing fingers at the king and saying the king has no clothes. Did you ever think that a meme posting something that you thought was funny or your friends thought was funny was going to land you up in jail?
Absolutely not. In 2016, like you said, I was just a guy posting funny stuff, posting newsworthy items. I was browsing on the internet, saw this meme, which I thought was funny, and posted it to my followers, who I also thought they would think it was funny. And a lot of them did think it was funny. Twitter didn't think it was funny because my whole account was suspended shortly after, I think the next day, after some professor from Loyola in Chicago claimed he thought he had uncovered a massive conspiracy. This was obviously just a joke. And my whole Twitter account was suspended. I moved on, made a new Twitter account, whatever, and never thought anything of it until 4 years later. Here I am, sitting in a courthouse, charged with conspiracy against rights, the KKK Act, the Klan Act of 1871, which is outlawing injuring, oppressing, threatening, or intimidating anybody exercising their rights. How does a meme count under that law? How do you get charged? Well, you'll have to ask the DOJ for that one. But ultimately,
well, this is a DOJ, Douglas. This is a group of people that can create 34 felonies out of a misdemeanor.
Absolutely. 3 felonies a day, as the old book goes, the old adage goes. We all commit 3 felonies a day without even knowing it. And so I went through the whole arraignment. The judge gave me a signature bond. I just signed my name. They say, if you don't show up for court, we're going to seize $50,000 from you. And then they finally slapped the criminal complaint into my hand so I could actually read what this thing was. And it read like a fevered conspiracy theory that you would read on the internet, not like a DOJ indictment.
Well, give me an example of what you mean by that. Was it more drama than it was facts? Is that what you're leading to?
It was drama. It was taking disparate tweets or messages, direct messages, and twisting them around. They said they put in all of this stuff from prior to that was clearly constitutionally protected speech, but they put it as the background. And instead of saying satire,
right?
Let's say a satirical meme saying Hillary Clinton is going to draft your daughters to fight in Russia, they would call it disinformation.
Right.
And they would say these people were spreading disinformation, not these people were having a laugh or even making a serious satirical point. And that's what the spirit of the meme that I posted was. I mean, part of the joke is that, look, Democrats, if they could get everybody voting from their couch, they absolutely would do that. And
100%.
Think of the election security implications of it. So by posting this meme, I didn't believe that anyone would actually fall for it or think this was real, but they dragged up old tweets of mine and messages. And this is how I ultimately got acquitted. They put in a whole bunch of direct messages that I didn't even read. They had no proof that I read. And even some of those messages were from groups that they admitted I wasn't involved in. I wasn't even part of the group. So from these people joking, or maybe even someone says, oh, this will fool all the liberals or whatever, and me not even being in those groups or reading those chats, that's how they created their conspiracy theory.
Well, that's one of the things that, they brought up. I saw here recently, and not to get off into the weeds, but on a Tim Pool episode, he had a guest on, and that guest was connecting him with somebody else that had done something terrible simply because that person had watched Tim Pool's broadcast. And they try to paint you with someone else's sins just because they passed through your life. You may not have had anything to do with them, but it's still, they want to associate you with that. I talk about it all the time. It's the mean girl mentality from the playground, right? It's you're guilty through association. What was your attitude later that day, or maybe the following day or the week later, when you realized that this is pretty severe? When you realized the severity of the situation, what was your attitude like? Where were you at mentally?
Well, I was upset. I was angry, and my attitude was never surrender. I guess I was defiant. So never did it cross my mind, oh, let me try to get out of this. Let me try to do a plea deal. Let me talk to them and cooperate with them in whatever other witch hunts they wanted to operate. And Lord knows there were many. And so it never crossed my mind. I was ready to fight and not capitulate. I was just worried about how I was going to pay for all of it. And that's where I got fortunate to have friends and supporters to pitch in so that we could actually fight this case.
Were you shocked how easy it was to, silence or attempt to silence you and lock you up, that it happened that quickly?
I was shocked. I know that they were going around and rounding up J6ers many times at the point of guns and flashbang grenades. Most of them just strolled into the Capitol. A handful might have been violent. So I was confused. I was, because I never was in the Capitol, but, I knew that the federal government could do this. I knew that they can just sort of create crimes out of thin air and charge you with them. And then the burden is on you to fight the charges.
Right.
However, I didn't imagine that it would have been that they would have cooked something up this quickly, and that this would be like, let's say, one of their first items on their agenda. I mean, which raises the question of how high up did this go in the DOJ?
Well, it had to go. I work in politics. You work in politics behind the scenes. You understand the system and how it works. And that's why I wanted to point that out at the beginning of the show, because that was 7 days after they took over the nation. Douglas Mackey was one of the first things on their list. So, I mean, what I have to say, Doug, is that I don't think that meme, based on all the other stuff you posted, I don't think that was your best work, honestly. So why were they so triggered?
Well, I think this was the only meme where they could try to find a federal crime behind it. And, when I would post this meme, I was not in the habit of posting illegal content at all. And I thought this was just like completely satirical, obviously a parody that nobody would fall for. And I thought it was funny. And my supporters thought it was funny. And by the way, guess who saw the meme? My supporters. This was not mailed out to every Hillary Clinton supporter's mailbox.
Right.
So that's how I felt about it. But I don't know. And this actually implicates the career officials within DOJ, which is probably even worse than if this were from the political appointees. Because as soon as the Trump political appointees left on January 20th, mind you, nobody from none of Biden's appointees had been sworn in yet. So this was something that the career officials were chomping at the bit to do. And it's because they hated Trump so much. They hated his movement so much and his supporters. And the goal was maximum crackdown to try to completely extinguish and exterminate the MAGA movement, the America First movement. And that started with the J6ers, continued with me, and then we saw what they did to President Trump.
That's what concerned me when you were arrested. I had been at January 6th. I had stood at the bottom of the stairs screaming and yelling. I didn't enter the building. I didn't do anything illegal. When that stuff started, I left. But what scared me was that I had been there, and we found out later that they were tracking us through our phones on the property. In fact, I was sent, anybody who was on the property that day on the Capitol grounds were sent a map from Facebook showing us our path, exactly where we had been that day. And then, just a few weeks later, your indictment and what happened to you. And all of a sudden I'm telling my wife, well, they're going to come after me as well, because I've got a large presence online. I'm not shutting up. To your point, I'm not going to surrender. They can't tell me what the fuck to do or what the fuck to say. So I'm going to be me first. And I can't kowtow to these bullies. What I think happened is that, and first of all, one of the things that cracks me up is that the left can't stand mockery. They cannot stand ridicule. although they're always calling everybody else names. Let me ask you this, and this is one of the questions I think you kind of answered, but did you create the meme or did you just find it and repost it?
Right. I didn't even create the meme. I'm not that talented with Photoshop or anything else. I don't even use Photoshop. So I just found this meme and reposted it.
Well, that's what cracked me up. I had been under the illusion that you had actually created this from scratch, and that is again. I'm looking at what the government did and the efforts that they took, the money that they spent to go after you. Right? I mean, it's like going after Banksy, right? He painted on the side of a building, which I guess, that is, destruction, but they're so valuable that the people cut them out. Do you think that we dodged a bullet with Hillary? I mean, I know we did, but based on what happened, how much of a bullet do you think we dodged with her and then here in 2024 with Kamala?
Oh, yeah, we absolutely dodged a bullet. I mean, imagine the witch hunt. I mean, they were operating a witch hunt even with President Trump in office. For example, my case was opened in 2018. Now, obviously the appointees, the Trump political appointees and the higher ups in the DOJ said, we're not going to charge this guy. This is obviously going to implicate free speech. They also didn't think that they had any proof of intent, which quite frankly, they didn't. But that's not even how I was acquitted. I was acquitted because they didn't even have proof of an agreement between myself and anybody else for this conspiracy.
Right.
Because we know the conspiracy law is two or more individuals agreeing to do something.
Well,
so
isn't
the
it?
fact is...
Well, go ahead.
No, the fact is, imagine the witch hunt that Hillary Clinton would have conducted. I mean, because I think she actually believed the Russiagate stuff that she had concocted out of thin air by paying these sort of shady spies in foreign countries. So just imagine the witch hunt. I'm sure I would have been arrested almost immediately. President Trump, everybody's life would have been turned upside down. And to your point, they arrested me, if you believe media reports, because they were leaking to the media. They arrested me because they said, oh, he was an influential guy so this meme could have had a demonstrable impact. Well, that's complete nonsense.
Right.
There were multiple scores of people that were unindicted co-conspirators. Anybody in any of those groups, they counted as an unindicted co-conspirator. And to the judge's shame, she allowed all of that into evidence. None of those people were arrested except for one, who they twisted his arm into being a cooperator because maybe
is that microchip?
That's microchip.
Okay. Tell me about that story. That was interesting to me. It seems like when they were losing the case or getting to the point where they were losing the case because there was no conspiracy, they introduced this character to say, well, we do have a conspiracy. Tell me about that.
Right. Well, in a conspiracy, you almost always need a cooperating witness to go up there on the witness stand and, quite frankly, many times to just say whatever the prosecution wants. Yes, I was at a conspiracy. Yes, we agreed to a conspiracy. Otherwise, very hard to prove your case, right? So this guy, Microchip, was a guy in 2016, and he just posted a lot of stuff online. And he was honestly, he was kind of a blowhard. He would claim that he was a major hacker and that he was doing all these crazy algorithm things. And look, none of it was actually believable if you had a lick of common sense, which the DOJ didn't. They actually thought he was some algorithm hacker wizard, global, international.
They believed what they heard on the internet is what you're saying.
They believed what he was saying on the internet was complete BS. So they actually looked at this guy in the interviews with some kind of like fear and loathing. They were actually afraid of him, and they loathed his guts. And they interviewed him 11 times. And in the beginning, he said exactly what the truth was, which was that there was no coordinated effort to trick anybody out of voting. There was no conspiracy. This was just basically joking around. And not only that, but also sort of provocation, provoke the other side, which is unfortunately provoke the other side a little too well in my case. So this was provocation. This was also joking around. But as time went on, they said, are you sure, you weren't in a conspiracy? We know that they were threatening. Well, we're going to look through all of your old tweets. I mean, look, how are they going to find crimes there? I mean, I don't believe that there were any. I don't believe he did anything wrong, but maybe he did, and he had a guilty conscience. The bottom line is he didn't want them to go through his history, so he agreed to cooperate and plead guilty to the crime. The joke ultimately was on him because he admitted to the crime, so he can't actually get his conviction tossed out. But the whole thing was just bizarre. They claimed that this was some major attempt to hack the election. Now, when he was sentenced, finally, after all these times, after he basically got sick of participating with the government and said, I want to be sentenced. And they just went in there all chummy, had a total handshake, and said, good luck with your life. And they gave him time served. Now, he never spent a day in jail. So for him, time served was all the months or years that he was on supervised release. So they gave time served, no fine, nothing. In my case, they gave me 7 months, $15,000 fine. And it was completely bizarre because this guy was online trashing the prosecution as a bunch of frauds. He recanted his testimony, and they knew all this. They knew he was on the internet doing this, and still they went into the courtroom, told the judge, oh, yes, he did a great job. He was a good boy, shook his hand, told him good luck with your life, and then he got a tiny slap on the wrist. So it's a complete farce and a sham.
Well, it just shows that it's a banana republic at that point, that our judicial system is not set up for justice. It's set up for retribution. Here, I want to listen to this. Hillary Clinton had this to say after your conviction.
You know, democracy requires at least a minimal level of trust. Mm-hmm. And how do you compromise with somebody unless you have some way to trust what they're saying and what they will do, for example? Mm-hmm. So if we are going to turn our politics over to people who maybe just for the heck of it are making up stuff to misrepresent leaders, or maybe because they know they can achieve it if they do, then where does this stop? And there was just a trial in Brooklyn where a guy who had been one of the main, I guess he was one of the main people running memes against me in 2016. Mm-hmm. He went from what you could consider free speech. I mean, both Nancy and I have pretty thick skins. People say all kinds of things about us. But he went from that to running a very deliberate effort to mislead people about where and how to vote. Yeah. So it went from speech to action meant to subvert the election because thousands of people who they targeted through their algorithms. Oh, I can text my vote for Hillary Clinton. Yeah. Thousands texted their vote. So we already know this has real world consequences, but we're just at the tip of what can happen to us because we are either incapable, unwilling, or just confused about what to do to try to rein all of this in.
That's what Hillary had to say about you and your actions, your deliberate actions. I want to ask you, we can see in hindsight now what they were doing and how it was done. This is the machine that gets put in place when they've got somebody in their sights that they're going to attack. And the hyperbole that she used there. Talk about that and how that makes you feel in hindsight.
Well, it's amazing. This has infected our brain like a brain worm, I think. The algorithms, she actually I think she believes it. I think she believes that what Microchip was saying and what the government was so afraid of, that Microchip was hacking into the algorithms to post memes and stuff. Well, it's completely ridiculous, completely absurd. And I would, mind you, she was talking to Nancy Pelosi. These are some of the highest, the most powerful women in the Democratic Party.
Yep.
And it's just crazy that she could actually think. I mean, this goes to the extent that she actually probably believes that Russia hacked the election.
She has to. She has to, right? To sell it like she sells it, she has to believe that it's true, even though she knows it's a lie.
She has to believe it's true. I think for her own ego preservation, she doesn't want to believe that Donald Trump could beat her in the election. She has to believe that shady hackers fiddled with the algorithms and that Russia was involved. She has to believe it, but she's completely out of touch. I mean, It's completely ridiculous. I guess she's showing her age. She's a little bit out of touch.
100%. You went through a hell of a lot. Luckily, you had a fan base that came in to support you and help you get through that. We're on the other side of it now. But I don't think that we're out of the woods. I believe that if Democrats were to take control tomorrow, that we'd be right back in the same boat, don't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're going to take the DOJ and do what they do best, which is weaponize it. And what they do is they take whatever behavior you did, they don't like you, or they investigate you, and then they try to fit that into a crime.
Yep.
A novel. They use novel interpretations of statutes, like they did in my case, that have never been done before. They did that to Trump. They did that to the J6ers, and that was tossed out of court. They don't care. They think.
Well,
that
Lennon
the
said,
Supreme Court,
I think it was Lennon said, Doug, that you give me the man, I'll find the crime.
right. Well, now it's show me the meme, and I'll show you the crime.
Exactly.
So absolutely, and they're going to do that all over again. They think that the Supreme Court is just a bunch of conservative fascists, so they don't care if they get overturned. They want to pack the Supreme Court anyway, so that they can get all these novel interpretations of statutes affirmed by the Supreme Court. So we'll be in the same exact boat. I mean, you can't even imagine how bad it's going to be if these people get back into power.
What do you think the best way to combat this is? What can everyday Americans do?
So it's a great question. I mean, we have to be, I guess it's cliche, we have to be politically involved. There are a number of weaponized cases from the Biden administration, the Biden regime, that are still actually working their way through the court system. So my small effort that I'm going to take is working with a group that we're spinning up called the Weaponization Watch. We are going to actually be looking at these cases, bringing them to the administration's attention and saying, look, these cases deserve to either be terminated or some kind of clemency, pardon, commutation. We know they did this with crypto. They did the same exact thing with crypto. They looked at crypto and tried to see how they could criminalize it in any way possible, rather than just say regulating it or passing laws saying you can't do this, you can't do that. They said, we're going to regulate, not by civil prosecution, which is what the DOJ does a lot of times, but by criminally prosecuting these crypto people. And they did this to pro-lifers. They did, the list goes on and on and on of the people who they targeted, twisted the law, and then just get the judges to affirm everything they do because it's one, sort of party system.
Doug, I appreciate you joining us this morning. I'm sorry that you had to go through what you went through. It's a learning lesson. America is an experiment. We are going to make mistakes as we move forward. But it's important after we've made those mistakes to call them out and be very loud about them. When you were indicted, that was one of the things that I started screaming and yelling in 2021, that we are in trouble. I had realized that based on what was happening, what had happened on January 6th, what we'd seen in the fall of 2020 with the rigged election. These are not hyperbolic, claims that we're making. We have proof and evidence of what we saw and what we witnessed. And as Americans, we have, one, the right to say it, and number two, the right to make fun of it. In that clip, Hillary Clinton goes on and says that we don't have the same right to lie and spread misinformation as our politicians do. That somehow they've got to regulate when we do it. Let me ask you this: where can people find you? And let's hear your parting thoughts on where we are as a nation.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We are fighting back. I'm pleased to have retained James Burnham. We filed a tort claim with the DOJ to try to recover damages from everything that this prosecution did to me financially and otherwise. We also retained Milbank. Milbank, I'm very fortunate to have retained Milbank, a large law firm. We've got some partners there who are agreeing to work pro bono to try to make sure this never happens again. We're going to be looking at the DOJ and seeing who the bad actors were and seeing, let me give you an example. I've heard from multiple sources that as soon as I was convicted, the DOJ already was using my case as the textbook case, in the handbook. The DOJ, the FBI, electric crimes case. That's completely absurd. We're going to be trying to rectify that. We're going to be trying to get the DOJ to rewrite their manual so that they can't go after people just for speech and call it election crimes. So this is what we're going to do. You can find me at Doug Mackey Case. I'll be giving you updates on my legal efforts as well as the Weaponization Watch. And if, for now, we still have some legal debts. If you want to chip in, memedefensefund.com, MEME, defensefund.com.
Well, Doug, I appreciate you coming on this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
From the halls of Congress
Across the nation.
and around the globe.
You're getting the latest news and conservative views.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
Kramer Says returns after this message from our partners.
Call it the wedding of the woke. Billionaire heir Alex Soros just tied the knot with Hillary Clinton's longtime enforcer, Huma Abedin, in an ultra-exclusive ceremony that was about as subtle as a BLM riot with bottle service.
It was quite an event. It took place on Shelter Island, which is off Long Island. You can't get there unless you're very rich. The event was attended by two former presidents, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. And of course, Hillary was there.
Translation: if you don't own a private jet, you're not on the guest list.
This event took place behind a phalanx of security, ironically, on Saturday, the same day when Soros foundations were bankrolling the so-called No Kings demonstrations around the country.
You heard that right. While the elite were toasting with Veuve Clicquot, Soros-backed protests were lighting up the streets. Because nothing says no kings like a family that buys district attorneys and throws $14 million weddings guarded like a royal fortress.
This violence in the streets, well, it's not spontaneous, and the American people deserve to know who's behind it.
While the media gushes over the dress, the venue, and the guest list, NLPC is tracking the dollars, right from the Soros empire to the streets.
We are identifying the money flows between the Soros Foundation and the activists who are conducting these protests.
You may not know our name, but since 1991, the National Legal and Policy Center has investigated and exposed more crime and corruption than any other political watchdog group in the country. Period.
And with your help, we're going to get at the truth.
Like, follow, and share to be notified about any updates on this story and more. Or get in-depth reporting from the National Legal and Policy Center at nlpc.org.
To learn more about the CramerSez Project, our mission, and how you can become a part of it,
Please visit thecramersezproject.com.
You're watching CramerSez.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are back, and folks, it's Wednesday, which is Hump Day, which is always my favorite day of the week. I've always loved Wednesdays. Wednesdays, you're going to slide into the weekend. Now, I'm retired for the most part. I mean, from what I used to work, the hours I used to work, trust me, I am retired. But what I want to talk about is not my casual life and what I do on the side and how I spend my time in my retirement. But what I want to talk about is the last 5 years. We talked to Douglas Mackey tonight, and Douglas, he shows us what's possible when our government gets out of control. That's what happened, folks. In the last 4 years, well, actually in the last 12 years, our government has continued to take more and more and more and more and more and more and more control out of our lives while calling us the problem, telling us that we're not paying our fair share. Well, let me step back. I want to be real clear when I say this. I have been blessed in my life. I have been given just about everything that I ever wanted. Now, there's a price that comes along with that. Nobody ever talks about that. Let me explain to you folks. For those of you who have followed my content over the last 5 years, you know my story. For those who don't, I'm going to be a real short version of it. I was born poor. I'm rich now. This is America. That's possible. No, I don't have a college education. I got some college. But it was smart. It's American know-how. That's what got me where I got. The people who say, well, listen to him the way he talks. I talk the way I want to talk. I own an Oxford dictionary. Yeah, I know how to speak. I know grammar. I speak the way that I speak because that's how Americans speak. We don't talk like you guys talk. We're not trying to be all highbrow. We're communicating ideas, and the best way to do that sometimes is in the most relaxed manner possible. Now, over the last 5 years, the number one thing that I've heard over and over and over again is no one is going to do anything. Have you heard that? Have you said that? Have you expected that? I'm not going to vote. It doesn't count. You're a fool. Anyone who says that is a fool. I'm someone. Anyone who follows me, it just irritates me to no end. I have hundreds of thousands of followers. I've attained billions of views. That's not to brag. That's to state one thing. One person can make an impact. You're watching tonight. I'm not watching you. You're watching me. One person can make an impact. It could just as easily be you. It could just as easily be you sitting here and me watching you. It could just as easily be that. That's what I'm saying. You are someone. The analogy that I use all the time, folks, is that we've gotten so used to our freedoms. They're so taken for granted that we expect someone else to go defend them for us. Are you serious? Your freedoms, your liberties are the most important things you own. Don't you get it? You don't put that in the hands of someone else. You defend that yourself with your life if you have to. That's what our founding fathers understood. I'm someone. I'm not the only one, but I'm someone. You're someone too. I decided that I wasn't going to hide my light under a bushel. I decided that what I was going to do is speak loudly. And if someone had a problem with me, if the bully had a problem with me, eventually the bully would make themselves aware. Well, they have. Don't you get it, folks? We're at war. If you don't understand the position that this nation is in and understand the point that we are at, our media is owned. Not by we the people. No, it's owned by the enemies that want to destroy us. That's why everything seems so upside down. You go to the media for news and you don't get news, you get indoctrination. You get preached at as to why you're wrong. Folks, the news isn't about you. It should never be about you. It should never focus on the American people. It should focus on those doing wrong to the American people. The last several years, we've heard time and time again how racist we are, how misogynist we are, how xenophobic we are, how hateful we are. We are not a hateful people. How do I know? Everybody on the fucking planet wants to get their ass planted here. Why? Because we are the greatest nation on the face of the earth. I don't care what anybody else says. I've traveled. I've been around the world. I've seen how other people live. Have you ever had to shit in a hole? I have. I've gone to nations where that's just what they do. Toilet paper. Do you have any? Did you bring some with you? Oh, no. We don't have any. Yeah, that'd be nice. I've been to those places. You've been to those places? You see, my insights on the subject matter that I speak about is based on what I've seen in my life, knowing how people struggle and how lucky we are as the American people. Our poorest people are fat. Let that sink in. America's poorest people are fat. Got to wrap your head around that one, folks. I've seen the starving, right? We've heard about these EBT cards running out and these people going to starve the streets. I've seen starving people. I've been to those locations. I've walked down the streets where the flies are laying on the kids' eyes. And why are they doing that? Because the kid is too fucking weak for malnutrition to fan them away. Ever seen that in person? I have. My views are based on these personal insights on what's possible. You have people that go to the airwaves on a daily basis telling you how bad America is, how terrible America is. There's a character right now on TikTok. He's being paid, by the way. If you don't know that, the young man who's going to China. Hey, everybody. My name is, I can't remember what his name is, but I'm in China. It's so advanced. It's so... Did you see the bridge that collapsed last week in China? Did you see that? They talk about how advanced China is, but have you heard about all the shit that collapses in China? There's a reason for that, folks. They don't have the same standards. Everything that you're seeing is propaganda. They won't tell you the truth. They can't tell you the truth. Why? Because you're a slave. The moment they tell you the truth and what the world really is, you'll wake up. That's what 2020 was all about. Did you wake up in 2020? I was becoming more and more awake, but man, 2020, whew, it was like if you didn't become awake and totally aware of what's going on around you in 2020, if you still believe that the system, the establishment cares for you, you are a moron and deserve to get everything you're about to get. The people of New York, they deserve it. The people who don't are the people who voted against it. They shouldn't have to live under those policies. If I was the ruler of the world and could make all the rules, that's what I would say. If you didn't vote for it, you don't have to live under it. Sadly, that's not the case. New York is about to learn a very valuable life lesson. The nation is. We are at a crossroads, folks, and the only way that we get through this is through free speech and truth. Free speech and truth. That's all that matters. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Well, what about this? What about... Doesn't matter. If you don't have those, you can't have any of the other stuff, folks. You can't. They take your free speech, everything else goes. That's why the guns are there. That's why we have that protection. It's not about hunting. It's not about going and getting some food. It's about killing the tyrant that will oppress you and tell you what you can and can't say. Have you seen the last 5 years in this nation? Have you seen what they've done? Have you seen what they did to Trump, what they did to the men inside his organization, the people that tried to work with him, General Flynn? Have you seen how they went after every one of these men and women who have vowed to make this nation greater, better? Trump's trying to clean up the streets, get the illegals out. What are they doing? They're fighting him. They ram their cars into ICE vehicles. They say that ICE are the Nazis, that they're the fascists, that they're the problems. The people enforcing the laws that were passed in a bipartisan manner, those people are the fascists and Nazis. The people running their cars into them, they're the heroes. This is the upside down world that we live in, and it will not be changed if we continue on the current path that we're on, with the current mainstream media doing what they do and just reporting on what they're told to report on by BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. All the major news outlets are invested in heavily by Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. They can't tell you the truth, folks. The truth's out there. We learned that in the X-Files. But our outlets can't tell you the truth today because they're owned by the people that manage what can and can't be said. CramerSez Project isn't. We need your help. You want to help? Stop fucking complaining, stop moaning and groaning, and become part of the solution. Now, let me be real clear here. I want to be real clear. As I said earlier, I started out poor as fuck. We called that PAF where I came from. You PAF? I'm PAF. Right? It didn't bother us. It was just where we were. It was a position in time. But it's not permanent. I can change that. Everybody talks about money. Everybody talks about money. I made a lot of money. I did a lot of great things. Folks, wife and I gotta say this. I gotta bring this up because it's funnier than shit. Over the last few weeks, for many of you who know, my wife is not in the best of health. And so we've been doing the process of downsizing and going through the memories of a lifetime, deciding what we're going to keep and what we're going to throw away. And what's been interesting is I'm not going to talk about my wife here. I'll just talk about me. The life we've lived, what we've been blessed to do. I lived in my car at one point. You know, that part of my upbringing and learning when I was on my own at 16, living in my car, going to college, trying to make it all work. That's what made me who I am now. The things that I had to do to survive at that point that I don't celebrate, folks. I was not a nice person. But those things that I did back then let me know right now what I'm capable of doing today. What my limits are. And they are limited. There's a lot of men like me who have bettered their lives, have silenced the anger that they had as a youth. We don't want that coming back. I get very emotional when I talk about this. We don't want that shit coming back. But if you bring it back, you better be aware that we can't turn it off. Only the loved ones in our lives can turn it off for us. Only they can bring us back. That's what you better realize. Us men who have silenced the anger, who control it on a daily basis, who don't unleash it like we used to in our youth. Can you imagine me at 22 years old pissed off at you? I was built like a brick shit house at that time. I'm an old man now, but the anger is still there. Don't force us to unleash it. We don't want that. What we want is we want the truth, and we want to live in peace. And to do that, the first way we start is by telling the truth. We need your help. That's what the CramerSez Project is all about. If you're a journalist and you want to help, we need your help. If you've got a story to tell, we've got a way of getting it out there. We're working on getting these messages out. We want to build a complete network. Oh, Kramer, you're crazy. When I started my first company, and I'm going to wrap it up with this. When I started my first company, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any path back, we had formed the company out of my house. All the cabling, all the wiring that we'd done over the years, we were moving out of that, and we were going to a new place. And when I moved out of the old place, I cut all the cables at the wall. What I mean by that is all the wires that were in the walls were cut. We couldn't do it again. It was done. I had no chance of going back. I couldn't return back. I didn't have a nest to return to. I didn't play it safe. I had to succeed. I had to get to the other side of the shore, otherwise I was going to drown. Folks, we've done this. My wife and I have done this many times before. She didn't have much faith in me in our early days, but the process works. You move forward and you build it first. The money, it'll come. It always does. I've done it every time. We need journalists, editors, videographers, marketing people, creatives, and people who know how to raise money and understand a good cause. That's what we need. If you want to help, get over to the CramerSezProject.com. The CramerSezProject.com. Do I have that up here? Can I bring that up here real quick? Oh, nope. That's the wrong one. Let's see if we can do this. We'll see if I can do it. Nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. It's not there. Okay, well, we'll do it next time. But it's the CramerSezProject.com. Get your butts over there. Folks, I know that you don't think that you may have much to offer, and you're thinking I'm just one person. But I say it all the time, and I mean this from the heart. I'm just one person. I'm just one person. I won't stop. Well, you're different. No, I'm not. I'm not any different. I'm not any different. My passion is the same as yours. We want you to join us. If you feel the same way, if you want to save this nation, we have to do it together. With that being said, I appreciate it. Have a great evening. We will be back tomorrow night. Hopefully, I think I've got another report tomorrow. I think we got an interview tomorrow. I don't know. I haven't seen my schedule yet, but we'll see. Again, get yourself over to the CramerSezProject.com. Until then, happy trails.
Thank you for watching Kramer Says Live.
This concludes this broadcast.
Please follow, like, and subscribe to be notified the next time
The Kramer Says Project goes live.